What happens when a billionaire hospitality mogul walks into a routine medical checkup and comes face to face with the one person who could destroy everything he's built? 7 years, 2 months, and 19 days. That's exactly how long Mateo Vega had been running from his past, building his $500 million empire, one luxury resort at a time. 7 years ago, Mateo Vega walked out on the love of his life, leaving behind a note and a shattered dream. Now he's back in Coral Cove, his empire built on the ashes of their broken relationship. But nothing could have prepared him for the shock of finding Isabella, the woman he abandoned, standing in front of him as Dr. Isabella Cruz, a brilliant, strong, and guarded woman who's built a life without him. And then there's Luna, their 6-year-old daughter, who embodies the past they shared and the future they never planned. As Mateo's eyes lock onto Isabella's, the weight of his absence crashes down on him, and he's forced to confront the consequences of his choices. Will he find a way to redeem himself, or will his return only lead to more heartbreak? Hello, my adorable family. If you're visiting for the first time, welcome home already. This isn't just a channel, it's a haven where every word is crafted to hold you close. Before we start, let me breathe a gentle prayer over your life, soft, tender, carrying all my hopes for you. May your heart be wrapped in comfort like the warmest quilt. May every tear, whether hidden or long past, be soothed by peace. May love find you quietly, in the unannounced moments you never expected. I pray the load you carry grows lighter with each breath, that the world feels a touch safer today, and that your soul remembers you are more than enough. You are cherished, you are needed, you are a miracle in motion. My sweet, beautiful family, please stay to the end of this story. It isn't just a tale, it's a piece of me written for you. If something moves within you when it's over, I humbly ask, rate the story out of 10 in the comments. Not for numbers, but for connection. If you choose not to, I'll still treasure your presence, because your voice matters deeply. Tap the like button, leave a gentle word, and share this with someone who needs a ray of light today. Together, let's remind the world that love still lives here, in every line and in every heart that remains. With all my love, let's begin the story.
The boardwalk of Coral Cove pulsed with life, a kaleidoscope of color and sound under the late August sun. Street vendors hawked fresh ceviche and mango smoothies, their voices mingling with the laughter of tourists and the rhythmic crash of waves against the pier. Mateo Vega adjusted his cufflinks, the ocean breeze tugging at his tailored navy suit as he approached the Coral Cove Health Center, a modern glass and wood building nestled between palm trees and a mural-covered skate park. At 36, Mateo was a titan in the hospitality industry, his chain of luxury resorts, Vega Shores, spanning the Americas, worth $180 million. But today, as he entered the clinic for a routine checkup before a critical Miami expansion meeting, his wealth felt like sand slipping through his fingers. 7 years, 2 months, and 19 days had passed since he'd last seen her, the woman whose voice still echoed in his dreams. He hadn't expected to find her here, in this vibrant coastal city, but fate, it seemed, had a penchant for dramatic reunions. Inside, the clinic hummed with energy, its walls adorned with student murals of dolphins and coral reefs, the air scented with salt and antiseptic. Mateo's pulse quickened as he scanned the waiting area, his gaze catching on a woman in a white coat, her back to him, her dark curls cascading over her shoulders. Dr. Isabella Cruz, the nameplate read, but he knew her without it. Her graceful posture, the way she tilted her head while reviewing a chart. Isabella, his college love, the one he'd left behind in their shared Miami apartment when Vega Shores investors demanded his full devotion. His throat tightened, the $3,000 suit suddenly suffocating, his polished facade cracking like driftwood under a storm. Mr. Vega? The receptionist's voice was bright, oblivious to the storm brewing in his chest. Dr. Cruz will see you in room 3. Mateo froze, his loafers glued to the tile as Isabella turned, her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, like sunlight on the sea, locking onto his. Her clipboard slipped, clattering against the floor, the sound sharp in the bustling clinic. "Mateo," she whispered, his name a mix of shock and pain, her face a canvas of emotions, surprise, anger, and something softer, buried deep. He tried to speak, but only her name emerged, raw and reverent. Isabella. The world seemed to pause, the chatter of patience, the strum of a street musician outside, the tick of a seashell clock on the wall, fading into a haze of their shared past. 7 years ago, he'd left her with a note on their kitchen counter, promising to call, swearing his move to New York was temporary, that his love for her was eternal. He hadn't called. He'd drowned himself in boardrooms and blueprints, building an empire while her voicemails, 39 of them, each saved, haunted his sleepless nights. "Mama, my mural's almost done." A small voice cut through the tension, and Mateo's world shifted. A girl, perhaps 6, bounded from a corner table covered in paint tubes and sketch pads. She had Isabella's warm olive skin, her fluid movements, but her eyes, green, piercing, like his own, struck him like a wave. She held a canvas, vibrant with ocean creatures, a turtle with a coral crown, a seahorse glowing in neon blues. "Is this the patient, Mama?" she asked, studying Mateo with fearless curiosity. "He looks like he needs a hug." Isabella knelt, her smile tight, but warm for the girl. "It's beautiful, Luna. Add some starfish, okay? Mama needs to work." Luna nodded, skipping back to her corner, humming a melody that sounded like the tide. Mateo's mind raced, piecing together the years, the timing, the truth etched in Luna's face. 6 years old. His daughter. "We should get started," Isabella said, her voice professional but fragile, like a seashell ready to crack. "Mr. Vega, room 3. The formality stung, as if they were strangers, as if he hadn't once known every curve of her laughter, every dream she'd whispered under moonlight. In the examination room, the air was cool, the walls painted with murals of crashing waves and leaping dolphins. Isabella moved with clinical precision, her stethoscope cold against his skin, her hands steady despite the faint tremble he noticed when she checked his pulse. "Deep breath," she instructed, her tone a carefully constructed mask. He complied, his eyes tracing her face, still radiant, now hardened with a resilience he hadn't seen before, forged by years of carrying the world alone. "Your heart rate's elevated," she noted, her voice neutral, but her eyes flickering with unspoken questions. "Nerves, perhaps. Seeing you again might have something to do with it," he murmured, and her jaw tightened, her gaze dropping to the chart. "Mr. Vega." "Isabella, please." His voice was low, pleading. "Can we talk?" "Not as doctor and patient, but as us." "There is no us," she said sharply, then softened, her eyes meeting his for a fleeting moment. "Dr. Cruz, let's keep this professional." He nodded, respecting the boundary but aching to bridge it. As she listened to his heart, he caught a whiff of her perfume, coconut and hibiscus, the scent of their Miami summers. Memories flooded him, late nights dancing salsa in their tiny apartment, her laughter as she taught him to cook arroz con pollo, the way she'd paint on their balcony, her brushstrokes capturing the ocean's soul. He'd left it all, convinced success would make him worthy of her, not realizing he was abandoning the only thing that made him whole. "Everything checks out," she said, stepping back, her stethoscope dangling like a lifeline she wouldn't offer. "I'll need you back for blood work and an EKG. Standard for someone with your lifestyle." "My lifestyle?" He raised an eyebrow, catching the edge in her voice. "High stakes, high pressure, high everything," she said, her eyes flashing like a storm at sea. "The kind of life that puts ambition above all else." The accusation landed like a breaker, heavy with truth. "Isabella, I never forgot you. Not a single day." She paused, her hand on the doorknob, her back to him. "She's 6, she said quietly, without turning. "In case you were wondering." And with that, she was gone, leaving Mateo alone with the weight of a truth he'd only just begun to grasp. Outside, he heard Luna's voice, bright and curious. "Mama, is the sad man okay?" Mateo closed his eyes, the question echoing in his chest. He wasn't okay, but for the first time in 7 years, he wanted to be. The Coral Cove Health Center buzzed with morning energy, the glass walls reflecting the sun's glare off the ocean like a beacon of hope and judgment. Mateo Vega sat in the waiting area, his tailored blazer draped over the chair beside him, his hands restless as he clutched a cup of coffee from the boardwalk's best vendor. Dark roast with a hint of cinnamon, Isabella's favorite from their college days. He'd arrived early for his blood work appointment, not out of diligence, but out of desperation to see her again, to bridge the chasm that had opened between them yesterday. The weight of her words, "She's 6, still pressed against his chest, a truth as heavy as the tide. Luna, his daughter, a vibrant spark painting murals in the corner, unaware of the man who'd failed her before she was born. The clinic's waiting area was alive with the rhythm of Coral Cove. Locals chatting in Spanish and English, children laughing as they added to a communal mural of a giant octopus, the air thick with the scent of salt and fresh paint. Mateo's eyes kept drifting to Luna, who sat cross-legged at her table, her small hands wielding a brush with precision. She was working on a new piece, a seascape with a lighthouse glowing against a stormy sky, her green eyes, his eyes, focused with an intensity that made his heart ache. She hummed softly, a melody that reminded him of Isabella's late-night painting sessions, when she'd lose herself in color and light. "Mr. Vega?" The receptionist's voice pulled him back. "Dr. Cruz is ready for you." Mateo stood, smoothing his shirt, his pulse quickening as he followed the nurse down a hallway lined with patient artwork, vibrant depictions of coral reefs and sailboats, a testament to the community's spirit. In room 3, Isabella stood by a counter, her white coat crisp, her curls tamed in a low bun. She didn't look up from his chart, but her fingers gripped the pen too tightly, betraying the calm she projected. "Thank you for coming in," she said, her voice clinical but strained, like a wave held back by a breakwater. "We'll do blood work today, an EKG tomorrow, and a stress test Friday. Results should be ready by next week." "Isabella," Mateo said, the name slipping out like a plea. "Can we talk? Really talk?" Her eyes flicked up, hazel and stormy, and for a moment, he saw the woman who'd danced with him under Miami's neon lights, who dreamed of opening a clinic to serve her community. But the moment passed, and her professional mask snapped back into place. "There's nothing to talk about, Mateo. You're my patient. I'm your doctor. That's where this begins and ends." "Is it?" He stepped closer, careful not to crowd her, his voice low. "Because I saw the way your hands shook yesterday. I know what you look like when you're holding back tears." Her gaze dropped to her hands, which betrayed her with a faint tremble. She clasped them together, her knuckles whitening. "You're imagining things." "Am I?" He leaned forward, desperate to reach her across the years of silence. "I remember every detail of you, Isabella. The way you bite your lip when you're nervous, the way you hum when you're lost in thought, the way you looked at me like I was your whole world, before I ruined it. Don't." The word was sharp, a warning. "Don't you dare act like you know me anymore. You lost that right 7 years ago when you left without a word." The accusation hit like a breaker, dragging him under. He remembered those weeks after he left. Her calls, her voicemails, each one more desperate, then resigned, then silent. He'd listened to every one, saved them in a folder labeled I, unable to delete the pieces of her he'd carried across continents. "I know," he said, his voice rough. "God, Isabella, I know. If I could go back. But you can't." She turned to the window, overlooking the boardwalk where vendors shouted and seagulls wheeled. "You can't undo the 3 weeks I called you, only to get your voicemail. You can't erase the moment I found your apartment empty, your lease broken, your life packed up like I was nothing." Mateo's throat constricted. He'd been in New York, drowning in investor meetings, convincing himself that answering her would only make leaving harder. "You were everything," he said quietly. "That's why I left. The investors, they wanted my soul, every minute, every thought. I thought I was protecting you, giving you a life free of my chaos." She spun around, her eyes blazing like the sun on the sea. "Protecting me? You don't get to decide what I needed, Mateo. You didn't get to choose for me. You left me to pick up the pieces of a life we'd planned together. He wanted to reach for her, to erase the pain in her eyes, but he stayed rooted, respecting the boundaries she'd drawn. I was wrong. I thought success would make me worthy of you, but all it did was show me how empty life is without you. Her laugh was bitter, cutting through the room. Worthy? I loved you, Mateo. I didn't need your resorts or your millions. I needed you to stay, to fight for us, to trust that we could have faced anything together. A soft knock interrupted them, followed by Luna's bright voice. Mama, can I show you my lighthouse? She peeked into the room, clutching her canvas, paint smudged on her cheek like a badge of pride. Her presence was a jolt, a reminder of the stakes beyond their pain. Isabella's face softened instantly, her maternal instincts overriding everything. Of course, mi amor. Come in. Luna bounced inside, her canvas glowing with vibrant blues and golds, the lighthouse a beacon against a stormy sea. She glanced at Mateo, her green eyes curious but kind. Are you feeling better, mister? Mama's really good at fixing people. Mateo crouched to her level, his heart swelling at her innocence. She's working on it, he said truthfully, his voice catching. That's an amazing painting, Luna. Did you make it all by yourself? She beamed, her dimples mirroring his own. Yup, it's for the Boardwalk Art Fair. Mama says art can make people feel better, even when they're sad. Are you sad? The question, so direct, pierced him. A little, he admitted, glancing at Isabella, who watched them with guarded eyes. But your painting makes me feel better already. It's a lighthouse, Luna explained, pointing to the canvas. It helps ships find their way home when it's stormy. Mama says everyone needs a light to guide them sometimes. Mateo's chest tightened, the metaphor hitting too close. That's beautiful, he said, his voice thick. Every ship needs a lighthouse. Luna, sweetheart, why don't you add some starfish to your painting? Isabella's voice was gentle but firm, redirecting her daughter. Mama needs to finish here. Okay. Luna skipped toward the door, then turned back to Mateo. Will you be at the art fair? I'm showing my painting, and Mama says it's gonna be the best one. Mateo looked at Isabella, seeking permission, but her expression was unreadable. I'd love to, he said carefully. If it's okay with your mom. We'll see, Isabella said, her tone neutral but her eyes wary. After Luna left, the silence returned, heavier now, charged with the weight of their daughter's presence. She's incredible, Mateo said softly. Bright, talented, kind, just like you. She's mine, Isabella said, her voice fierce, protective. I've raised her alone for 6 years. I've been her everything. Mother, father, teacher, protector. She doesn't need upheaval, Mateo. She needs stability. The word stung, a reminder of his absence, his failure. I'm not the same man I was 7 years ago, he said. I know I don't deserve a place in her life, or yours, but I want to try. I want to prove I've changed. Prove it how? She crossed her arms, her gaze piercing. By showing up with coffee and apologies? By charming her with your smile? You built an empire on ambition, Mateo. What's different now? He hesitated, the truth raw in his throat. I don't sleep, he admitted. I haven't slept well in 7 years. I lie in my penthouse, surrounded by everything money can buy, and all I think about is you. Your laugh, your warmth, the life we could have had. I'd trade it all for one more morning waking up next to you. Isabella's mask slipped, just for a moment, revealing the woman who'd loved him, who'd planned a future with him. It's too late for pretty words, she said, her voice softer now, tinged with grief. Some things can't be fixed with poetry or regret. Then let me prove it with time, he said, stepping closer, his voice earnest. With actions. Let me show you I'm not the man who left. She stared at him, her eyes a storm of conflict. Hope warring with fear, love battling distrust. Your appointment confirmations are at the front desk, she said finally, deflecting. Don't miss them. Consistency matters. It wasn't an answer, but it wasn't a rejection either. Mateo took it as a fragile opening, a crack in the wall she'd built. Thank you, he said, meaning more than the medical care. For being the incredible woman you are, for raising Luna to be so amazing. Isabella's breath hitched, but she only nodded. She's the best thing I've ever done, she said quietly. She deserves the world. She should have been ours, Matteo thought, but didn't say. Instead, he nodded and headed for the door. Isabella, he called softly, turning back. I won't hurt her. Or you. Not again. As he left, Luna's voice echoed from the waiting area, asking if this sad man would be at her art fair. Matteo stepped onto the boardwalk, the ocean's roar mingling with the laughter of tourists, carrying the weight of 7 years and the faint hope of a second chance. The Coral Cove boardwalk shimmered under the midday sun, a tapestry of movement and color that seemed to mock Matteo Vega's inner turmoil. He stood outside the health center, the ocean's rhythmic roar a counterpoint to the chaos in his mind. His EKG appointment was in 10 minutes, but his thoughts were adrift, caught in the riptide of yesterday's confrontation with Isabella. Her words, "You don't get to decide what I needed," echoed alongside Luna's bright question, "Are you sad?" The truth was, he was drowning in sadness, in regret for the life he'd abandoned 7 years ago. Today he'd come not just for medical tests, but for a chance to glimpse them again. Isabella, with her guarded hazel eyes, and Luna, his daughter, whose paintings lit up the world like a sunrise over the sea. The clinic's waiting area was a vibrant hub, filled with the chatter of patients and the laughter of children, adding to the communal mural, now featuring a whale with a mischievous grin. Matteo's eyes found Luna immediately, perched at her corner table, her small hands blending blues and purples on a canvas of a coral reef. Her green eyes, his eyes, sparkled with focus, her tongue peeking out as she painted a starfish with delicate precision. She wore a smock splattered with colors, a miniature artist in a world too big for her innocence. Matteo's chest tightened. She was a piece of him he'd never known, a legacy he hadn't earned. "Mr. Vega?" The receptionist's voice was warm, familiar now. "Dr. Cruz will see you shortly. Have a seat." Matteo nodded, choosing a chair near Luna's table, close enough to watch her, but far enough to respect Isabella's boundaries. He sipped his coffee, another dark roast with cinnamon, a quiet offering he'd left at the front desk for Isabella, knowing she might toss it, but hoping she wouldn't. Memories flooded him, unbidden, vivid as the ocean outside. He saw Isabella at 22, her curls wild in the Miami breeze, painting on their apartment balcony while he studied hospitality contracts. She'd tease him, flicking paint onto his notes, laughing when he'd chase her around their tiny living room. "You're gonna own the world, Matteo," she'd say, her voice full of belief. "But don't forget to live in it." He hadn't lived. He'd conquered resorts in Cancun, Miami, Rio, but every penthouse felt empty without her laughter, her warmth. He'd saved her voicemails, 39 fragments of her voice, from hopeful to heartbroken. "Matteo, call me back, please. I don't understand why you left." "I'm keeping it, Matteo. I hope you're happy." The last one, dated 6 months after he'd gone, was a whisper. "Her name is Luna. She's perfect." He'd listened to it on repeat in his New York office, the city's skyline mocking his solitude. Luna's voice snapped him back to the present. "Mister, do you like coral reefs?" She held up her canvas, a vibrant underwater scene with fish darting through neon corals. "Mama says they're like underwater cities, full of life." Matteo leaned forward, his heart swelling at her openness. "It's incredible, Luna. You make the ocean come alive. Do you paint a lot?" "All the time," she said, her dimples flashing. "Mama says painting is like telling a story without words. This one's about a reef where everyone belongs, even the shy fish." She pointed to a small, silvery fish tucked behind a coral branch, its eyes wide and curious. "That's beautiful," Matteo said, his voice thick. "Every fish needs a home." He wanted to ask about her favorite colors, her dreams, but he held back, aware of the line he couldn't cross. Not yet. "Luna, sweetheart, don't bother Mr. Vega." Isabella's voice came from the hallway, firm but gentle. She stepped into the waiting area, her white coat a stark contrast to the colorful murals behind her. Her eyes met Matteo's, and for a moment, they softened, catching the coffee cup on the desk. She didn't acknowledge it, but she didn't throw it away either. He's not bothered, Mama. Luna protested, grinning at Mateo. He likes my painting. Mateo smiled, a flicker of hope igniting. She's right. I'm not bothered at all. Isabella's lips twitched, almost a smile, before her professional mask returned. Room 3, Mr. Vega. Let's get your EKG done. In the examination room, the air was cool, the walls adorned with a mural of a pod of dolphins leaping through waves. Isabella moved with efficiency, attaching electrodes to his chest, her fingers brushing his skin briefly, sending a jolt through him. Lie still, she instructed, her voice steady but her eyes avoiding his. The machine hummed, graphing his heartbeat, a rhythm that felt too loud, too raw, in her presence. Your coffee's still cinnamon, Mateo said softly, breaking the silence. I remembered. Her hands paused, just for a second, before resuming. You remembered a lot of things too late, she said, her tone clipped but laced with something softer. Grief, maybe, or nostalgia. I know, he said, staring at the ceiling, the electrodes cold against his skin. But I never forgot you, Isabella. Not the way you'd hum salsa tunes while painting, or how you'd leave paint smudges on my shirts. I still have one, you know, a blue button-down with your fingerprints on the collar. I couldn't wash it. She froze, her eyes flickering to his, a storm of emotions breaking through her facade. Why are you doing this, Mateo? Why now? Because seeing you yesterday, seeing Luna, it's like waking up from a dream I didn't know I was in, he said, his voice raw. I built an empire, Isabella, but it's hollow. Every resort, every deal, I did it thinking it'd make me enough for you. But I lost you instead. You didn't lose me, she said, her voice trembling, the first crack in her armor. You walked away. You chose to leave me in that apartment, alone, with a positive test and a broken heart. The words hit like a wave, dragging him under. He sat up, the electrodes pulling slightly, his eyes locked on hers. You were pregnant when I left, he whispered, the realization sinking in deeper. And I wasn't there. God, Isabella, I didn't know. You would have known if you'd answered my calls, she said, her voice breaking now, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. I waited, Mateo. I waited for you to come back, to be the man I thought you were. But you didn't, and I had to become everything for her. He stood, ignoring the wires, his heart pounding louder than the EKG. I'm here now, he said, his voice fierce with conviction. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm begging for one. For Luna, for you, for the family we could have been. Isabella's eyes glistened, but she blinked back the tears, her jaw tight. You don't get to walk in and claim her, she said. She's my daughter. I've been her whole world, every scraped knee, every nightmare, every school play. Where were you when she painted her first picture? When she asked why her daddy wasn't there? Mateo's throat burned, the weight of his absence crushing him. I was building a life I thought would make us proud, he said, his voice cracking. But I was wrong. I'd give it all up. Every resort, every dollar. If it meant being there for her first painting, for you. Isabella shook her head, stepping back, her arms crossed like a shield. Words, Mateo. They're just words. You're good at those, always were. But Luna deserves more than promises. Before he could respond, a soft knock came at the door, and Luna peeked in, clutching her canvas. Mama, I finished the shy fish, she announced, holding up the painting, now with a cluster of starfish glowing around the coral. Can Mr. Vega see it? He liked the last one. Isabella's face softened, her maternal warmth a stark contrast to the storm in her eyes. Of course, mi amor. Show him. Luna bounded over, her enthusiasm alight in the tense room. Look, the shy fish has friends now. They're keeping him safe. She pointed to the starfish, their colors vibrant against the coral's pinks and blues. Mama says everyone needs friends to feel brave. Mateo crouched, his heart swelling at her words, so innocent, yet so profound. You're right, Luna, he said, his voice thick. Everyone needs a friend. Your painting makes the reef feel like a family. Luna beamed, then tilted her head, studying him. You look like you need a friend, too. Are you coming to the art fair? I'm going to show this one, and Mama's gonna be so proud. Mateo glanced at Isabella, seeking permission, his heart in his throat. Her expression was guarded, but she didn't say no. I'd love to, Luna, he said carefully. If your mom says it's okay. We'll see, Isabella said, her tone neutral but her eyes softer now, as if Luna's presence had smoothed the sharp edges of their pain. Luna, go clean your brushes, okay? Mama needs to finish here. Okay. Luna hugged her canvas and skipped out, leaving a trail of paint flecks on the floor. The silence that followed was softer, less jagged, as if her light had left a glow in the room. Isabella, Mateo said, standing, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. I know I can't undo the past, but I want to be here now. For her, for you. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust. She looked at him, her eyes searching his, as if trying to find the man she'd once loved beneath the polished exterior. Trust isn't given, Mateo, she said quietly. It's built, and it takes time, time you didn't give us before. I know, he said, nodding. I'm not going anywhere. I'll show up, for every appointment, every art fair, every moment you let me have. She didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. The EKG machine beeped, signaling the test's end, and she removed the electrodes with care, her fingers lingering a moment longer than necessary. Your results will be ready soon, she said, her voice professional again. Don't miss the stress test tomorrow. It's important. For my heart, he asked, a faint smile tugging at his lips. For your health, she corrected, but her eyes held a flicker of warmth, a crack in the wall she'd built. Go get your appointment card at the desk. As Mateo left the room, he glanced at Luna, who was rinsing her brushes in a sink, humming her ocean melody. The boardwalk outside pulsed with life, vendors calling, waves crashing, seagulls soaring. And for the first time in 7 years, Mateo felt a pull stronger than ambition, a tide drawing him toward a family he'd lost, but might still reclaim. The Coral Cove boardwalk glowed under the late afternoon sun, its vibrant chaos a stark contrast to the storm brewing in Mateo Vega's mind. He stood outside the health center, his phone buzzing incessantly in his pocket. Texts from his CFO, emails from investors, a voicemail from his Miami project manager demanding his presence at a critical site inspection. Vega Shores was on the cusp of its biggest expansion yet, a $500 million resort that could redefine luxury on the Atlantic coast. But the weight of it felt like an anchor dragging him away from the one place he wanted to be. Here, in Coral Cove, where Isabella and Luna held the pieces of his fractured heart. His stress test appointment was minutes away, his third visit in as many days, and each encounter with Isabella felt like a fragile bridge over a chasm of regret. Luna's invitation to the art fair tomorrow loomed like a beacon, a chance to prove he could show up, not just for tests, but for them. Inside the clinic, the waiting area pulsed with life, locals swapping stories, children giggling as they added shells to the communal mural, now featuring a mermaid with a crown of coral. Mateo's eyes found Luna at her painting table, her small hands blending oranges and pinks into a sunset over the ocean, her green eyes bright with focus. She wore a paint-splattered smock, her curls tied back with a seashell clip, and her presence was a quiet reminder of what he'd missed, 6 years of firsts, from her first steps to her first brushstrokes. He'd brought a small gift today, a set of watercolor brushes he'd picked up at a boardwalk art stall, hoping it wasn't too forward. He set the wrapped package on the table near her, his heart pounding with the hope she'd like it. Mr. Vega? The receptionist's smile was warm, familiar. Dr. Cruz is ready for you in room 4. Mateo nodded, glancing at Luna, who looked up and waved, paint smudging her cheek. Hi, mister. Are you here for Mama to fix you again? Her voice was bright, cutting through his tension like sunlight through fog. He smiled, crouching to her level. Something like that, Luna. I saw your new painting. It's like a sunset come to life. She beamed, holding up the canvas. It's for the art fair tomorrow. Mama says it's gonna make everyone happy. Are you coming? I wouldn't miss it, he said, his eyes flicking to the hallway where Isabella might appear. If your mom's okay with it. Luna nodded, then spotted the gift. "Is that for me?" she asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Only if your mom says it's okay," he said carefully, his voice soft. "They're brushes, for an artist as talented as you." Luna's grin was a sunrise, and she clutched the package, already tearing at the wrapping. "Mama, the nice man got me brushes," she called, her voice echoing through the clinic. Isabella appeared at the hallway's entrance, her white coat crisp, her hazel eyes narrowing as they landed on the gift. "Luna, what did I say about accepting things?" Her tone was gentle but firm, her gaze shifting to Matteo, a mix of wariness and something softer, curiosity, perhaps. "I told her to check with you," Matteo said quickly, standing. "I just thought, she's so talented. I saw the brushes at the boardwalk in." "It's fine," Isabella cut in, her voice clipped but not unkind. "Thank you, Matteo. Room 4, please." He followed her, the weight of her guarded tone settling over him. The examination room was bright, its walls painted with a mural of a sailboat gliding through turquoise waves. Isabella prepped the treadmill for the stress test, her movements precise, her face a mask of professionalism. "You'll walk at increasing speeds," she explained, attaching electrodes to his chest. "The machine will monitor your heart. Any discomfort, you tell me immediately." Matteo nodded, stepping onto the treadmill, his eyes tracing her face. The scent of her perfume, coconut and hibiscus, stirred memories of their Miami nights, dancing barefoot on the beach, her laughter mingling with the waves. He wanted to tell her he'd dreamed of those nights, that he'd wake in his penthouse reaching for her, but her walls were up, and he knew he had to earn the right to breach them. The treadmill hummed to life, and Matteo began walking, the pace steady but demanding. "You've been consistent," Isabella said, her eyes on the monitor. "Showing up for every appointment." "That's unexpected. I meant what I said," he replied, his breath steady despite the incline. "I'm not going anywhere. Not this time." She didn't respond, but her fingers paused on the chart, a small sign she was listening. The treadmill sped up, and Matteo's heart rate climbed, not just from the exercise, but from the weight of her presence. "I keep thinking about us," he said, his voice low, almost lost in the machine's hum. "That summer in Miami, when we'd stay up all night planning our future, your clinic, my resorts, a life together." Her eyes flicked to his, a storm brewing. "Don't do this, Matteo. Not here." "I have to," he said, his pace quickening with the treadmill. "I see you with Luna, and it's like seeing the life I threw away. You were my home, Isabella. I didn't know how rare that was until I lost it." She adjusted the machine, her movements sharp. "You didn't lose it. You left it. There's a difference." The treadmill's pace intensified, mirroring the tension between them. Matteo's breath grew ragged, but he pushed on. "I know. I was a coward, thinking money would fix what I broke inside myself. But seeing Luna, seeing you, it's like the tide's pulling me back to who I was supposed to be." Isabella's jaw tightened, but her eyes softened, just a fraction. "You don't get to walk back in and rewrite the story," she said, her voice quieter now. "I built a life without you. Luna's happy, safe, loved. She doesn't need a father who might disappear again." The words stung, but they were fair. Matteo gripped the treadmill's rails, his heart pounding under the electrodes. "I won't disappear," he said, his voice fierce. "I'll prove it, Isabella. Every day, every step." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed loudly from his pocket, the screen lighting up with his CFO's name. Isabella's eyes flicked to it, her expression hardening. "Your empire's calling," she said, a bitter edge to her voice. "Some things never change." "It's not like that," he said, slowing the treadmill as the test ended. "This deal in Miami, it's big, but it's not my life anymore. You and Luna are." She unhooked the electrodes, her touch clinical but gentle. "Words, Matteo. You're good at them. But Luna deserves actions, consistency, presence, not promises drowned out by boardroom calls." He stepped off the treadmill, his chest heaving, not just from the test. "Then let me start tomorrow," he said. "At the art fair. Let me be there for Luna, to cheer for her painting. I'll leave my phone in the car, no distractions. Just me, showing up." Isabella hesitated, her eyes searching his, as if weighing his sincerity against 7 years of absence. She'd like that, she said finally, her voice soft but guarded. But it's not a free pass, Matteo. One step at a time. He nodded, a flicker of hope igniting. One step, he agreed. Thank you. As she reviewed the EKG readings, a soft knock came at the door, and Luna peeked in, clutching her sunset painting. Mama, look. I added a boat to my sunset. She held up the canvas, now featuring a small sailboat bobbing in the pink and orange waves. It's going to the art fair. Will you clap for me, mister? Matteo crouched, his heart swelling at her enthusiasm. I'll be the loudest one there, Luna, he said, his voice thick. That boat looks like it's sailing somewhere special. It's sailing home, she said, her eyes bright. Mama says home is where your heart is. Matteo's gaze flicked to Isabella, who looked away, her expression unreadable. Your mom's right, he said softly. Home is where your heart is. Luna, go pack up your paints, Isabella said, her voice gentle but firm. We're closing soon. Okay. Luna hugged her canvas and skipped out, leaving a trail of warmth in her wake. The silence that followed was less heavy, tinged with possibility. Your heart's strong, Isabella said, handing him the EKG results. Physically, at least. Don't miss tomorrow's appointment. It's the last one before your results are finalized. And the art fair? He asked, holding her gaze. She sighed, her shoulders softening. Be there for her, Matteo? Not for me, not for you, for her. She deserves someone who shows up. I will, he promised, the weight of it grounding him. As he left the room, his phone buzzed again, but he silenced it, shoving it deep in his pocket. The boardwalk outside thrummed with life. Vendors selling empanadas, musicians strumming guitars, the ocean roaring its eternal song. For the first time in years, Matteo felt the pull of something stronger than ambition, a chance to be the man Luna and Isabella deserved. The Coral Cove boardwalk thrummed with the energy of the annual art fair, a riot of color and sound that spilled across the pier like a painter's palette. Booths lined the walkway, draped in vibrant fabrics, showcasing local art, pottery glazed in ocean hues, canvases of crashing waves, woven baskets adorned with shells. The air was thick with the scent of grilled arepas, sea salt, and sunscreen, while a salsa band played on a makeshift stage, their rhythm mingling with the laughter of families and the crash of waves below. Matteo Vega stood at the edge of the fair, his tailored linen shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his phone left in his car as promised, a small but deliberate act to prove his commitment. Today wasn't about Vegas shores or the Miami resort deal. It was about Luna, whose painting was on display, and Isabella, who might finally see him as more than the man who'd left. He scanned the crowd, his heart racing as he spotted Luna at a booth near the pier's end, her small frame dwarfed by a canvas of her sunset painting, now framed and glowing under the afternoon sun. She wore a bright yellow dress, her curls tied with a ribbon, and her green eyes, his eyes, sparkled with excitement as she explained her work to a passerby. Isabella stood beside her, radiant in a white sundress, her professional demeanor softened by the festive atmosphere. She was laughing, a sound Matteo hadn't heard in 7 years, and it hit him like a wave, stirring memories of their Miami summers. Her laughter on the beach, her hand in his, their dreams as boundless as the ocean. Matteo approached cautiously, clutching a bouquet of hibiscus flowers he'd bought from a vendor, their petals vibrant against the green of their stems. He'd chosen them for Isabella, remembering how she'd tuck hibiscus behind her ear during their college days. His stress test results were due today, but the real test was here, in this moment, proving he could be present for Luna, and maybe, just maybe, for Isabella too. Luna, he called softly, waving as he neared. Her face lit up, and she ran to him, her dress fluttering like a butterfly's wings. You came, she squealed, hugging his legs before pulling him to her booth. Look, my painting's up. People said it's pretty. Matteo crouched, admiring the canvas. Her sunset with its sailboat, now surrounded by starfish and a faint glow of moonlight. It's more than pretty, Luna, he said, his voice thick with pride. It's like you captured the heart of Coral Cove. She beamed, pointing to the sailboat. It's going home, like I told you. Home's where you feel safe, right? His gaze flicked to Isabella, who watched them with guarded eyes, her smile fading slightly. Right, he said, standing. You're a real artist, Luna. I'm so proud of you. Isabella stepped forward, her arms crossed, but her posture softer than in the clinic. She worked hard on it, she said, her tone neutral but her eyes flickering to the hibiscus in his hand. What's this? For you, Mateo said, offering the bouquet. I remembered you loved hibiscus. I thought maybe they'd make you smile. Her fingers brushed his as she took the flowers, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through him. Thank you, she said, her voice quiet, almost vulnerable. They're beautiful. The moment hung between them, fragile as sea glass, until Luna tugged at Isabella's dress. Mama, can we show him the other paintings? There's one with a dolphin I helped with. Isabella hesitated, then nodded, her lips curving into a small smile. Sure, mi amor. Lead the way. Luna grabbed Mateo's hand, her small fingers warm and trusting, pulling him through the crowd to a booth displaying a collaborative mural, a dolphin leaping through waves, painted by local children, including Luna. I did the tail, she said proudly, pointing to the dolphin's vibrant blue fin. It's strong like Mama. Mateo laughed, the sound genuine, easing the tension in his chest. It's perfect, Luna, just like your mom. Isabella's cheeks flushed, but she didn't look away, her eyes holding his for a moment longer than necessary. The band struck up a lively salsa tune, and couples began dancing near the stage, their movements fluid and joyful. Luna clapped, bouncing on her toes. Mama, dance with us. You love salsa. Isabella shook her head, laughing softly. Not now, Luna. I'm helping with the booth. Please. Luna pleaded, her eyes wide. She turned to Mateo. You dance, right, mister? Dance with Mama. Mateo's heart skipped, caught between hope and fear. Only if your mom's up for it, he said, his voice cautious but warm, offering Isabella an out. Her eyes narrowed, assessing him, then softened as Luna's excitement bubbled over. One dance, she said, setting the hibiscus on the booth's table. For Luna. They moved to the dance area, Luna cheering as she followed, her painting forgotten for the moment. The band's rhythm pulsed through the boardwalk, and Mateo took Isabella's hand, his touch tentative but steady. Her hand fit perfectly in his, like a memory come to life. And as they began to move, salsa steps they perfected years ago in Miami, the years seemed to melt away. Her movements were fluid, confident, her sundress swirling as she spun, and Mateo matched her, their bodies remembering the rhythm even if their hearts were still at odds. You haven't forgotten, Isabella said, her voice breathy from the dance, her eyes locked on his. Never, he replied, his hand resting lightly on her waist. Every step, every moment with you, it's burned into me. Her smile faltered, but she didn't pull away, their steps carrying them through the crowd. Luna clapped, twirling nearby, her laughter a bridge between them. For a moment, it was just them, Mateo and Isabella, young and in love, dancing under Miami's stars, before ambition tore them apart. The song ended, and they stopped, breathless, their hands still joined. The crowd applauded, but Mateo only saw Isabella, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Why does this feel so familiar? She whispered, almost to herself. Because it's us, he said, his voice raw. Because no matter how much I screwed up, you're still my home. She pulled her hand away, the spell breaking, but her expression wasn't angry, just conflicted. Luna, she called, turning to her daughter. Let's check on your painting. Luna ran back, oblivious to the tension, and grabbed their hands, linking them together. You guys dance so good. Can we all go see the fireworks later? They're gonna light up the whole sky. Mateo looked at Isabella, waiting for her lead. She sighed, brushing a curl from Luna's face. We'll see, mi amor. Let's get through the fair first. As they returned to the booth, Mateo's heart was lighter, the dance a small victory, a crack in Isabella's walls. But his phone, left in the car, weighed on his mind, not because he wanted to check it, but because he knew the Miami deal was looming, a tidal wave threatening to pull him back to his old life. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on Luna's chatter about her painting and Isabella's quiet presence beside him. Later, at the clinic for his stress test results, the mood shifted. The examination room was quiet, the murals of waves now seeming to churn with unspoken tension. Isabella sat across from him, her white coat back on, her professional mask in place as she reviewed his chart. "Your results are clear," she said, her voice steady. "No cardiac issues. You're healthy, Matteo." "Physically, maybe," he said, leaning forward, his eyes searching hers. "But my heart's been broken for 7 years, Isabella. Seeing you, seeing Luna, it's like realizing how much I've been carrying." Her fingers tightened on the chart, her eyes flickering with vulnerability. "You don't get to say that," she said, her voice low but trembling. "You don't get to walk in and claim pain like it's yours alone. I carried Luna for 9 months, raised her for 6 years, alone. I cried myself to sleep wondering why you didn't love us enough to stay." Matteo's throat burned, his hands clenching. "I loved you too much," he said, his voice breaking. "I thought I was nothing without success, that I had to prove I was enough for you. But I was wrong, Isabella. I was enough when I was with you, when we were dreaming together, laughing together. I'd give it all up to have that back." Her eyes glistened, and for the first time, she didn't look away. "I don't know if I can trust you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not after everything. But seeing you with Luna today, it's confusing. She likes you, Matteo. And I don't want her heart broken." "I won't break it," he said, standing, his voice fierce with conviction. "I swear, Isabella. I'll be here, for every art fair, every painting, every moment she'll let me have. And for you, if you'll let me." She stood too, her arms crossed, but her posture was less defensive, more open. "It's not that simple," she said. "But today was a start. For Luna's sake." A knock interrupted them, and Luna burst in, clutching a ribbon from the art fair. "Mama, look. My painting got second place." She held up a blue ribbon, her face glowing with pride. "Did you tell him, Mama? About the fireworks?" Isabella smiled, her tension easing. "Not yet, mi amor. But maybe we can all watch them together." Luna cheered, hugging Matteo's legs again. "You're coming, right? It's gonna be so cool." Matteo looked at Isabella, his heart in his throat. "If your mom says it's okay," he said, his voice soft but hopeful. Isabella nodded, a small gesture but monumental in its weight. "For Luna," she said, her eyes holding his. "Let's watch the fireworks." As they left the clinic, the boardwalk was alight with anticipation, the sky darkening for the fireworks show. Luna skipped between them, linking their hands, her laughter a melody over the ocean's roar. Matteo felt the pull of his old life, his phone, his empire. But for the first time, he knew where his heart belonged. Here, with the woman he'd lost and the daughter he was just beginning to know. The Coral Cove pier sparkled under the twilight sky, a canvas of stars emerging as the last rays of sunset faded over the ocean. The art fair had wound down, but the boardwalk remained alive, its energy now focused on the annual fireworks display. Families gathered along the railing, their faces lit by anticipation, while vendors sold glow sticks and churros dusted with cinnamon. Matteo Vega stood near the pier's end, his linen shirt slightly rumpled from the day's heat, his heart pounding as he watched Luna skip ahead, her yellow dress glowing under the fairy lights strung above. Isabella walked beside him, the hibiscus bouquet tucked into her bag, her sundress catching the breeze. The dance at the art fair earlier that day had cracked open a door between them, and the promise of watching fireworks together felt like a tentative step toward something new. A family, perhaps, if Matteo could prove he was worthy of it. Luna turned, waving a glow stick shaped like a starfish. "Hurry up, Mama. Mr. Matteo, the fireworks are going to start." Her green eyes sparkled, mirroring the ocean's shimmer, and her enthusiasm was a lighthouse guiding Matteo through the fog of his past mistakes. "Slow down, mi amor," Isabella called, her voice warm but tinged with caution. She glanced at Matteo, her hazel eyes reflecting the fairy lights, a mix of hope and wariness in their depths. "You're still here," she said quietly, almost to herself. "I didn't expect that." "I told you," Matteo replied, his voice low, earnest. "I'm not going anywhere. Not this time." She didn't respond, but her silence wasn't cold. It was thoughtful, as if she were testing the weight of his words against 7 years of absence. They reached a spot near the pier's railing, where Luna had claimed a prime view, her glow stick twirling as she chatted with a group of children nearby. The crowd buzzed with excitement, the salsa band's earlier rhythm replaced by a soft hum of anticipation, the ocean's waves a steady heartbeat beneath it all. Matteo's phone, still in his car, was a distant ghost, but its absence didn't erase the pressure of Vegas shores. His CFO had left 3 voicemails today, each more urgent, warning that the Miami resort deal was at risk without his immediate attention. Investors were restless, timelines were slipping, and Matteo's absence was raising questions. But tonight, he'd chosen this. Luna's laughter, Isabella's presence, the chance to rebuild what he'd broken. The cost of that choice loomed, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the moment. "Luna's ribbon looks good on her painting," Matteo said, nodding toward the booth where her sunset canvas still stood, now adorned with a blue second-place ribbon. "She's got your talent, Isabella. And your heart." Isabella's lips curved, a small smile breaking through her guard. "She's got your eyes," she admitted, her voice soft. "And your stubbornness." She spent weeks on that painting, refusing to give up until it was perfect. Matteo's chest tightened, the acknowledgement of his connection to Luna both a gift and a wound. "I wish I'd been there," he said, his voice raw. "For her first painting, her first day of school, all of it. I know I can't change that, but I want to be there now, for every moment you'll let me have." Isabella looked out at the ocean, her arms crossed, the hibiscus in her bag a quiet reminder of his gesture. "It's not just about showing up, Matteo," she said. "It's about staying. Luna deserves someone who won't vanish when things get hard. And I—" She paused, her voice catching. "I can't go through that again." The vulnerability in her words hit him like a breaker, exposing the depth of her pain. He stepped closer, careful not to crowd her, his hands in his pockets to resist reaching for her. "I know I broke your trust," he said. "I broke us. But I'm not the man who left, Isabella. I've spent 7 years chasing a life that doesn't matter without you. I'd trade every resort, every deal, for a chance to be the man you and Luna need." Her eyes met his, glistening under the fairy lights, and for the first time, he saw something beyond wariness. Hope, fragile but real. "You say that now," she said, her voice barely above the waves. "But your life, it's not here. It's in boardrooms, private jets, cities far from Coral Cove. What happens when your empire calls you back?" Before he could answer, Luna ran back, her glow stick twirling. "Mama, look. The fireworks are starting." She grabbed their hands, pulling them to the railing, her small fingers linking them together. The first firework exploded, a burst of gold and red lighting up the sky, reflected in the ocean below. Luna gasped, her face alight with wonder, and Matteo felt a surge of gratitude. For her, for this moment, for the chance to stand beside them. "They're like stars falling into the sea," Luna said, her voice awestruck. "Mama, Mr. Matteo, aren't they beautiful?" "They are," Isabella said, her eyes on Luna, her hand tightening slightly in Matteo's. The gesture was small, but it felt monumental, a bridge across the years of distance. "They're perfect," Matteo added, his voice thick, his eyes on both of them. The fireworks continued, bursts of blue, green, and purple painting the sky, each explosion a reminder of the light he'd been chasing in all the wrong places. As the show reached its crescendo, Matteo's heart raced, not from the display but from the weight of what he needed to say. "Isabella," he began, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "I've been running from myself for 7 years, thinking success would fill the hole I left when I walked away. But it didn't. You and Luna, you're my home. I'm not asking for forgiveness today, but I'm asking for a chance to build something new, together." She turned to him, her eyes searching his, the fireworks casting fleeting shadows across her face. I don't know if I can trust you yet, she said, her voice raw but honest. But I see how you look at Luna, how you showed up today. It's a start, Mateo. A real start. His throat burned, relief and hope flooding him. That's all I need, he said. A start. I'll prove it every day. Here, in Coral Cove, not in some boardroom. Luna tugged at their hands, oblivious to the weight of their words. Can we get churros now? The fireworks are done, and I'm hungry. Isabella laughed, the sound light and genuine, easing the tension. Of course, mi amor. Let's get churros. She looked at Mateo, her expression softer now. Join us. I'd love to, he said, his heart swelling as Luna grabbed his hand again, pulling him toward a vendor's cart. They sat on a bench overlooking the ocean, sharing churros dusted with cinnamon, Luna's laughter mingling with the waves. For a moment, they were a family, not whole, not yet, but closer than Mateo had dared to hope. As they ate, Isabella's phone buzzed, a reminder of her own responsibilities, the clinic, her patients, the community that relied on her. Duty calls, she said, checking the screen. A patient needs me back at the clinic. And my team needs me in Miami, Mateo admitted, the words heavy. But I'm not going, not yet. I'll handle it from here, delegate what I can. I meant what I said, Isabella. You and Luna come first. She studied him, her eyes probing for truth. That's a big promise, she said. Your world doesn't stop for anyone. It stops for you, he said, his voice steady. I'm putting down roots here, Isabella. I've already talked to my team about scaling back my travel, setting up a base in Coral Cove. I want to be here, for Luna's next painting, for your clinic, for us. Luna, licking cinnamon from her fingers, looked up. Are you staying, Mr. Mateo? Like, for real. Mateo crouched to her level, his heart in his eyes. For real, Luna. I want to see every painting you make, every ribbon you win. If your mom's okay with it. Luna turned to Isabella, her eyes pleading. Can he, Mama? He's nice, and he likes my art. Isabella's smile was small but warm, her gaze shifting between Luna and Mateo. We'll see. Mi amor, she said, her voice softer than before. One step at a time. The words were cautious, but they were enough. A commitment to possibility, a crack in the wall that had separated them. As they walked back to the clinic, Luna skipping between them, Mateo felt the weight of his empire still pulling, but it was lighter now, overshadowed by the warmth of Luna's hand in his and Isabella's quiet presence beside him. The ocean roared softly, its waves a reminder of the challenges ahead, Isabella's trust to earn, his business to balance, a future to build. But as the fairy lights glowed and Luna hummed a tune, Mateo knew he'd found his anchor. Coral Cove wasn't just a place. It was a promise, a chance to be the man he'd always wanted to be. For Luna, for Isabella, for himself.